Okay, one you can come from. So the next session is the community project session, chaired by Jay Edmonds.
Thanks, Detlef. So there's a lot going on in the community and a lot more than we can put into all the sessions that we have, despite having 3 days of meetings. And so what we'd like to do is gather together the activities that are going on in short updates so that everybody kind of gets a feel for the depth and breadth of what's happening in our community. And so we have a long list of activities. Everybody gets a 60 seconds of fame. And after that, you got to move on. So I'm sorry, because there is just so much good work being done, but there's so much good work being done that it's hard to keep up. So I'm going to set a timer so that I can keep track and remind everyone that their 60 seconds of fame are over. Okay, so the very first up is Kewan Reahi. Oh, that's right. You have 10 minutes. He's special. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, so thank you, Jay. So it's really great to be here today and to introduce, I think, one of the community projects which will help us all in moving forward with the scenario work that we are doing, and which is the Scenario Compass Initiative. Can I ask for the slides, please? That's great. That's great. So the Scenario Compass Initiative basically is a bottom-up community activity where we want to help basically the integrated assessment community to communicate and better disseminate our scenarios. And we want to basically do that in a way inclusive with all of us together, and go new ways in terms of providing more guidance to users in how to use our scenarios. And the current situation starts with the fact that we are extremely productive. So we have thousands of scenarios which are assessed in different reports, like the IPCC reports, and which make it actually quite challenging for the users to interpret this large amount of scenarios and the meaning of those scenarios. And this lack of clarity sometimes leads to also reduced relevance in some of the processes, and we wanted to establish a community project that basically helps us to communicate and to interpret the scenarios in a better way. So what we are trying to do is we want to make the scenarios more usable, more accessible, so everything that we are developing. And for that, we bring together basically leading organizations from the integrated assessment modeling community with some of the key users, and established the so-called Scenario Compass facility. The idea is to, many of you will know the YASA Scenario Explorer. This is more or less the next generation of scenario database, a facility which basically allows users to more or less in a continuous process to have access to our scenarios, and basically also go towards a new way of publishing our scenarios in an annual product on a regular basis, to have a curated set by the community at the end of each year, which basically shows what are the newest set of scenarios that have been developed over the last year, for example. And so what are the new things that we are thinking about here? So the Compass initiative will have a so-called sandbox, which lots of different scenario features for the modeling teams. So modeling teams can submit their scenarios into a sandbox, and there are many, many different scenario tools which can be used there. So there's a backend for the modeling teams, but more importantly, there is also a front end for the users. So a front end for the users, which basically with a much more accessible design with lots of interpretation possibilities of the scenarios. And when modelers submit more or less their scenarios into a sandbox, there will be scenario analysis and vetting applications, and those scenarios will then be provided into the so-called scenario compass, which is then accessible for all the different users. And when I say this is a live database, the idea is that at the moment when new scenarios are submitted by modeling teams into the sandbox, and those fulfill certain quality criteria, those will then also be made directly accessible to the users. This means that the users don't have to wait for the next assessment report of the IPCC to have access to the scenarios. This is happening more or less online, and every year we would basically jointly review the scenarios and jointly publish them as a community in terms of a new curated data set. What are those scenario services to the modelers in the sandbox? I mean, at the one hand, we want to go new directions in terms of the vetting of the scenarios and also develop community standards for that. But there will also be access to different types of emulators and scenario extensions, which will allow us as modeling teams to better understand where are our scenarios compared to other scenarios. So downscaling tools, which would downscale global scenarios at the national level, emissions infilling, harmonization, climate assessment of the scenarios. So if you would submit a scenario into the sandbox, automatically the climate implications of that scenario consistent with IPCC methodologies would be created. There will be equity interpretation and interpretation of different scenarios in terms of feasibility concerns, for example, and tools and methods to debias and to basically increase the robustness of the scenario sets themselves. But these are different tools that we are planning to develop as part of this project. But everybody can make suggestions, of course, of which type of tools actually we wanna develop at the end. So the responsibilities for the database itself is also distributed within the community. So we have working groups on energy, land, on emissions and climate, on the database development itself, on downscaling, and also on the methodology development. And it brings together more or less different institutions within the community. So the key outputs will be next year, in the year 2025, where we want to release a beta version of the Scenario Compass with the new features, where we want to release a first annual assessment as well as the community flagship publication. And in order to get there, there is the following timing here. If you basically have your mobile phone and you're interested where you can submit scenarios, you can use the QR code on the right-hand side. So the database is already open for submitting scenarios. So if you have scenarios, for example, that you could not submit to the AR6 database and you're interested to submit it for the next version of the IEM basically curated scenario set that will be published in 2025 and will be part of that publication, then I would use the mobile phone and take a picture here, but you can also send me an email or talk to colleagues about the Scenario Compass initiative. The idea is to basically take everything on board which is submitted by the 1st of March 2025. And the idea is to launch the Scenario Compass basically in May 2025. So there would then be some time for the vetting. But even if you don't manage to submit until the March deadline, don't worry. There will be a 2026 version of the new curated set of the IAM scenarios. So the new innovation will be that every year we will come together and assess and try to weed out scenarios which are at the end of their lifetime and add new scenarios that have been developed by the community. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so just to indicate why this was 7 minutes and not 1 minute. So this is clearly a project that this goes beyond the other community projects, which are mostly a group of us that work together. Here, this is for the whole community. And so the whole community can use this tool to start submitting scenarios. And we would go to a next level of professionalism where we have every year an update of something similar to the IPC database, which then can also be used for advanced scenario analysis. So that's clearly why I thought it was important to give a little bit more time. It's even possible if there's one quick question to do that. If not, we go to the 1 minute presentation. Back to you, Jay.
Right. We actually, if you look on your screens, you'll see the order. There are actually 19 of these 1 minute presentations. We'll start with Alexandros, who has 3 of these actually. And so if you can queue up in the order that your 1 minute is allocated, you have 3 1 minutes in a row.
Can you show the next slide for a second? Because then we see the next line.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So these are the next people that are supposed to present. So if you are on this list, you can already come to the front.
Great. So can we put up the first slide?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
You're off.
Cheers. Thank you very much. So yes, I submitted 3 of these projects because there were partners insisting that we should do that. We haven't done that, and 2 of them are already underway. So this is Diamond. So it has started for a while. It's almost halfway there, but we never, presented that to the community. So that's on me. Very quickly, it has its key objective is basically to develop, let's say, a next generation of open integrated assessment models. So it uses already established, well-established integrated assessment models and tries to expand, to upgrade them in various ways and expand their capabilities by interlinking them also with other modules and models of different domains and so on and so forth. And eventually, at some point, it will get to the point of validating them with research questions that will be co-created with stakeholders and so on and so forth. Many amongst you among the partners. So I don't need to go through all the details. I can go through the next one. So that would be IAM Compact.
Slide, please.
So IAM Compact, another one way underway. In fact, it just ended its final year of a 3-year project. Rather than developing new capacities in terms of integrated assessment modeling, this one is tasked with using existing capabilities to support climate policy making, support the design of the next generation of NDCs and so on and so forth. And it's a big consortium. It also has 4 non-high-income country partners for capacity development. And the idea is that its driving force is a policy response mechanism. There was also a poster on that presenting how it works, basically, where we interact with different stakeholders at different levels to get the questions, understand how to deal with them, put together studies, then go to different stakeholders, fine-tune, do the modeling analysis and so on and so forth. So it's a very elaborate process of trying to stay policy relevant. And so that's the idea. And the final slide on transients is
30 seconds.
Yep. Yeah. And the final one is transients, about essentially, again, developing new capacities, but for industry, right? So it takes different existing integrated assessment models or different sector models, And its idea is to develop new open capacities in these modules, as well as integrate them into one model ecosystem that's called MIC3, and it's about industry, decarbonization, circularity, performance, and sustainability. And it also does so at the EU level and in 4 regional industrial clusters in Europe. That's all for me. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. Well done. David?
All right, the long and short of this is that Alan Fawcett, PNNL, and I would like to encourage folks in this community to consider submitting an abstract to this relatively new conference series that's taking place in Washington, D.C. in April of next year. And it's the so-called Innovations in Climate Resilience Conference, ICR 25. It's being organized by Battelle. As some of you know, Battelle is sort of the mothership that manages like a lot of the Department of Energy labs in the U.S., including PNNL, ORNL, NREL, and so on. But it's going to be a pretty diverse array of folks there, from national labs, universities, think tanks, private, companies, government. You can see the themes here: adaptation, mitigation, sustainability over 3 days. Alan and I are co-chairing each couple different sessions, one on future energy solutions and one on sustainable transition. But there's stuff on critical materials and AI for climate and health and other things. I would just say, so talk to us if you have any questions. It would be great to see work from our community represented here as this conference series builds in the future. But act quickly. November 18th is the deadline. So I'll buy a beer for anybody who shows up at this meeting, gets accepted, or
Perfect,
coffee, whatever.
perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah.
Well done, right on time. Okay, our next one is Ian.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to provide some updates on our team's IAM framework, the Unified Climate Options Nexus, or UNICON, not to be confused with the mythical animal. We are developing the UNICON framework as an IAM with doubly integrated components. So we aim to link sectoral bottom-up models with the global top-down CG model that is also integrated with climate and damage models. So several model variants are currently in use, such as the UNICON IAM, the UNICON G, the UNICON K, and so on. 2024 was our 3rd year out of a 7-year funded project, and some research updates for this year. We continued work on developing several sectoral bottom-up models. We linked our global CG model with our power sector bottom-up model. We conducted a full integration of climate and damage models into our global CG model, and we explored various input databases into our models. So we have 4 very busy years left ahead of us in which we hope to further develop UNICON. I would love to discuss more with anyone interested. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Okay, Shinichiro, you have 2 slides.
Okay, so the first one is AGAMI, so-called Agricultural Model Intercomparison Project, which I think have already introduced in a series of earlier IMC meeting. And we are now at kind of a phase 4 stage, and the main funding is coming from 8 Lancet commissions. And currently we have 2 main streams. One is focusing on dietary change impacts on agricultural land use system. The other one is ozone concentration impacts on crop yield. And particularly if we would have climate change mitigation, then obviously ozone concentration will be influenced by that, which may turn into the agricultural system changes, et cetera, et cetera. And we have multiple models here, like conventional IAMs, plus some other agriculture economic models are also involved in this. And the second study related to ozone concentration has been already introduced in yesterday's land sessions, and I think I believe that the paper will be submitted very soon. Okay, can you go to next? The other one, which is new to you, I believe, and this is called Aspire project, which is funded by Japanese government, specifically focusing on innovative decarbonization technologies like synthetic fuel, hydrogen, CDRs, et cetera. And we have a kind of a consortium between EASA and the Japanese multiple teams. And basically, we are going to make a model intercomparison between message and aim, but beyond that, we may want to have some more extension from this framework. So if you have some interest, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Okay, next up, Masa.
Interestingly, the color looks different, but I don't know why. But anyway, so this is the Japan Model Intercomparison project. We have started this several years ago, and our focus is obviously on Japan. And we have a paper in this, the conference. But I think hearing a lot of conversations in this week, I think because things like green steel making, hydrogen, ammonia, I think there's a lot of common interest across East Asia and beyond. So if you're interested in in any of these topics, please talk to me. Yeah. So and of course, obviously, we are making a contribution to the IMC national scenario, the scientific working group activities. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So Bhumi,
Actually, there is some mistake. I'm Jong-won Woo.
Oh.
Bomi Kim is my student. So actually, I'm introducing my project, which we hoping for a community project at the end. The name of this project is Guide Global. You can see the full name from the PPT file, and we are trying to develop a IAM for multiple scale from global and Northeast Asia regional, national, and subnational level with climate change and air quality together. So we are trying to develop this one in the Korean model, but in the meantime, we are collaborating with EASA, famous message gains model to get the benchmark result with the same framework. So in the right-hand side, you can see the schematic diagram of this model, and also you can see the brief final result of national model, because we have a more user-friendly graphical user interface. So if we develop this project at the end, we might invite more community people to join with us to study together. Thank you. Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay. Giacomo?
Jay, can I ask the slide master to tap next? Okay, thanks. Okay, hi, I'm Giacomo from TUDEFT, and I'm happy to introduce my ERC starting grant project called Ripple. Ripple bridges the gaps left by the isolated study of two fields. One is the research on our beloved IEMs. That is very useful, but it often underestimates the pace of innovation, overestimates transition feasibility, and oversimplifies the policy exploration with assumptions like perfect foresight. The other is the research on positive tipping points in socio-technical systems, which has mostly been qualitative, limited to case studies, and focus on social adoption rather than innovation. Ripple combines IEMs, complexity economics, and interpretable machine learning to better model disruptive transitions and better design policies that help the green economy tip before the climate does. Thanks for listening. Hiring starts soon. Stay tuned. Thanks.
Thank you. Frederick?
Thank you very much. So a few words about the EMACLIM network. It's really a capacity transfer initiative that we've set up at CIRED, following on the path built by Jean-Charles Hourcade. And so you may be familiar with the global model EMACLIM. And so we have country versions that stand on the same methodological principles. So two guiding principles to that: model coupling, meaning that we know that the economics toolbox is not fit for representing the systems we want to project into the future. And model tailoring, in the sense that we want to adapt. We always systematically adapt EMACLIM to the modeled economy and the time frame of analysis, and we do not hesitate to go towards very imperfect market solutions. The outreach of this network is now extending to 15. Thank you. 15 countries, two latest members in Serbia and Jamaica. Our activities basically are bilateral modeling and stakeholder consultation, plus multilateral online seminars and annual meeting,
Right.
and more online. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Yang?
All right, Yang Cho from PNNL. So I just want to quickly talk about this topic on critical minerals, which is basically a group of materials that are important for technologies that we need for reaching a low carbon future. And there has been some discussion about modeling critical minerals in IAN. And we are actually in GCamp, we are actually developing these capabilities to model critical minerals in the model. And also we are hoping to build up a community that involves modelers, experts, and also decision makers that shares this common research interest. So if you are interested in this topic, feel free to reach out Dr. Gokul Iyer or myself at PNNL. So we are happy to talk about more about our work in GCAM and also explore potential collaboration. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. Elmar, you're up.
Yeah, good morning. Elmar Kriegler, Potsdam Institute. So this is about a new EU project starting in 2025. The name is also the program. It's about new pathways to reach the Paris Agreement. Looking at the new reality of overshoot that we have, taking a focus on equity and finance, and also looking again deeper into the sectors to try to have cross-sectoral strategies to better decarbonize. It's a large consortium coordinated by PIC, 8 global IAM teams, 16 national modeling teams from 11 countries, and then some expertise on finance, equity, policy, and stakeholder dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, A1.
Korea Energy Modeling Forum, KEMF, 한국 에너지 모형 포럼, for those of you who learned Korean the last few days. On behalf of KEMF, I want to welcome everyone to Korea. We're established in 2020, now 4 years strong. We compare IAMs and energy economy models, many of present today. Global models like GCAM, Message, AIM, Times Leap, and Korean developed models such as METER and Unicone. Key model intercomparison projects every year, 2022 power sector, 2023 optimal sector efforts for carbon neutrality, and finally 2024 decarbonization pathways for next NDC 2035. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Bas, you have 2 slides and therefore 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. We first start off with edits, a demand side research community that we have developed over the past 5 years under the support also from the Japanese government, RIDE and METI. Establishing a demand side community looking into individual sectors, capacity of how we can have lower demand scenarios for buildings, transport, and industry, and develop more of these scenarios. And we are now that that community is established, we are slowly pivoting more towards the IAM community. Several people in this room are involved there, and we'll develop more scenarios on low demand, especially at focusing in edits on the sector and national level, but also now more looking towards the IMC to help improve the representation of demand side variables in the common definitions template, IMC templates. If we go to the next, something completely different, that Iconix is very grateful to Eric and Benedict at the University of Leeds to volunteer to organize the 3rd Scenarios Forum next summer, in the middle of summer in Leeds. That looks broader than the IMC. IAMs are one component of scenarios, but there's much more to scenarios than IAM quantifications. And that's what all comes together at the Scenarios Forum, looking into climate scenarios, impact scenarios, the socioeconomic sides and the mitigation sides. And there's a very slow minor selection of the advisory committee there on it. It's slow and growing. There's a call for research themes coming your way soon, where you can propose themes for the conference.
Thank you. Excellent. Roberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I should have 7 minutes instead of only 1. Anyway, I'm just listed a series of projects here just to show that there is also life in the Global South. So basically, I just listing here a series of projects that we're starting now, let's say related to low carbon energy sources and its impact on international trade, a new project on a Brazil long-term mitigation pathways, which is going to be used by Petrobras, which is a oil company in Brazil that's beginning to think about moving to new directions. Also a project that we have in collaboration with University of Maryland, also on international engagement to accelerate global transition to a low carbon economy. Also a new project that's going on energy transition pathways for Brazil. Another project also on critical materials. So I'm very glad to hear that there are other people also looking at the impact of critical materials on low carbon pathways. We are just about to finish the new climate plan for Brazil, which is going to be used to announce the new NDC during COP29 next month or this month. And finally, also a project on impacts and adaptation on energy and the agricultural sector, and how does that impact mitigation pathways, and you're somehow endogenizing impacts into our blues model in Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Panos?
So, good morning from Brazil to Switzerland. I'm Evangelos to present the Swiss SURE project. In this project, which is Swiss project, but we have many members from the IMC community participating in that. We assess the sustainability and resilience of the Swiss energy system across several dimensions. We start with a stakeholder forum where we are using them to create scenarios, pathways for the Swiss energy system. And then we assess the performance of these scenarios for sustainability and resilience across several dimensions, like economy, environmental, society, and politics. We use both quantitative and qualitative analysis. Important here is also that we have a game to communicate the results of this project. Thank you very much, and you are free to communicate with me if you need more details.
Thank you. So last but hardly least, Jim McFarland.
Hi, I'm Jim McFarland. I'm with the US EPA, and we have a project going on to support biennial transparency reporting for countries. There are many different places where we can provide support. There's inventories, support for implementation of policies and measures on NDCs as well. The area that's probably most unique and important for this audience would be sort of the work we're doing on greenhouse gas projections and supporting developing countries to better have more transparent, but also maybe more technically sound ways to do projections. We are open to working with people in a multilateral way or a bilateral way. We're working with PNNL to coordinate this, but we're not tied to any particular modeling framework. So you can use GCAM or LEAP or any other thing, but we're here to really provide help. We're engaging with sort of like multilateral workshops. We had one in October. We have two more coming up in early December. Would be happy if you want to reach out to me to have you participate and learn more about the workshops. But again, what we're trying to establish is something that is sort of like an ongoing collaborative effort from a community capacity building standpoint, so the countries can learn from each other, with the goal to be providing more sound and quality transparency reports for particularly greenhouse gas projections. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jim. So all of the speakers were on time, but due to cosmic inflation, we're 10 minutes over. Detlef, I'm going to turn the floor back to you.
We are now to the coffee break and then the parallel sessions right after that. Sorry for being 10 minutes late. So the coffee break is a little bit shorter.